To his community, Edmund Kemper was Big Ed, a gentle giant who charmed local cops and had a genius-level IQ. He was 6'9", a familiar, friendly face, but behind that smile was a cold-blooded monster who stalked, murdered, and dismembered 6 young women, a spree that earned him the nickname the Co-Ed Killer. But for Kemper, those horrific crimes were all just practice for the one murder he'd been fantasizing about his entire life, killing his own mother. How does a lifetime of twisted maternal abuse lead to one of the most shocking acts of violence in true crime history? Edmund Emil Kemper III was born on December 18, 1948. He was a boy who would grow to an intimidating size, but spent his life in the shadow of one person, his mother, Clarnell Strandberg. Clarnell was an alcoholic who relentlessly tormented him. After his parents divorced, Kemper's life with her became a nightmare. She saw him as a failure, a stand-in for the husband she now hated. The abuse was constant and cruel, like water dripping on a stone, slowly carving away his sanity. She was so afraid he might harm his sisters that she made him sleep in a locked, damp basement, like a caged animal. She mocked him for his height and told him that no woman would ever want him. His constant verbal poison didn't just hurt him, it acted like a pressure cooker, building a volatile rage inside him with no release valve. His bark fantasies started to grow. He began torturing and killing the family pets, a classic warning sign. He would stage ritual executions with his sister's dolls, decapitating them in a chilling preview of what was to come. Criminal profilers who've studied Kemper all agree this is where the monster was made. Every insult and moment of humiliation was another component added to a psychological bomb, with the fuse lit and pointed at one person, his mother. He was trapped in what he later called a love-hate relationship, desperate for her approval, but consumed by a desire for revenge. That rage needed an outlet, and the world was about to find out just how terrifying that could be. The first time Edmund Kemper killed, he was only 15. He'd been sent to live with his grandparents, but the change of scenery did nothing to calm the storm inside him. On August 27, 1964, after an argument, he grabbed a rifle and shot his grandmother dead. When his grandfather returned, he shot him too. When asked why, he told police he just wanted to see what it felt like to kill grandma. Court psychiatrists sent him to Atascadero State Hospital, a facility for the criminally insane. There, his high IQ became his greatest weapon. He was the perfect patient, charming the doctors and learning their psychological jargon. It was like a hacker learning a system's code. He studied their methods not to heal, but to find a way to bypass their security. He fooled them completely. Against the advice of some doctors, Kemper was released on his 21st birthday in 1969, his juvenile record wiped clean. He was declared rehabilitated and sent straight back to the one place he shouldn't have gone, his mother's house. Living under her roof again was a disaster. The old wounds were ripped open, and the rage that had been simmering like a dormant volcano came roaring back, stronger than ever. It was then that he came to a grim realization, later confessing, "She's gotta die, or girls are gonna die." For almost a year, a quiet terror swept through Santa Cruz as young women, mostly hitchhiking college students, started disappearing. It was Edmund Kemper putting his dark thoughts into action. He was Big Ed, the friendly giant who was so familiar to local cops that he'd share drinks with them. He'd cruise the streets, offering rides to unsuspecting young women. The spree began in May 1972 with Marianne Pesci and Anita Lucchesa. He drove them to a remote spot and murdered them, establishing a gruesome pattern. He would take the bodies back to his mother's apartment, where he would perform horrific acts before scattering the remains. Over the next 10 months, more women died. 15-year-old Aiko Koo, then Cindy Shaw,
Then, on February 5, 1973, he murdered Rosalind Thorpe and Allison Liu. Psychologically, these murders were a dress rehearsal. As FBI profiler John Douglas later pointed out, Kemper was taking the rage he felt for his mother and displacing it onto these victims. They were understudies for the real target. He couldn't kill his mother, not yet. In a chilling symbol of his true motive, he buried some of the victims' heads in his mother's garden, facing her bedroom window. It was a twisted, silent taunt, with each murder a rehearsal that brought him one step closer to his final goal. The final act of Edmund Kemper's story happened on April 20, 1973. After another vicious fight with his mother, Clarnell, he waited for her to fall asleep. Then he walked into her bedroom with a claw hammer. The rage he had been building his entire life was finally unleashed. He beat her to death before slitting her throat. But killing her wasn't enough. He had to completely destroy the source of his torment. In a final symbolic act, he decapitated her and removed her larynx, her voice box. Then he shoved it down the garbage disposal. It was like smashing the radio that had broadcast nothing but hate and criticism his entire life. He wanted to permanently silence her bitching, as he put it. The hours that followed were a depraved explosion of violence. He desecrated her body and used her severed head as a dartboard. To cover his tracks, he invited his mother's friend, 59-year-old Sally Hallett, over for a surprise dinner. When she walked in, he strangled her to death. With two bodies in the house, Kemper knew his life as a free man was over. After murdering his mother and her friend, Kemper fled, but the satisfaction he had dreamed of never came. He felt only a profound emptiness. It was like a dog that spends its whole life chasing a car, and once it finally catches the bumper, has no idea what to do next. He listened to the radio, waiting for news of his final crime, but there was nothing. Disappointed and exhausted, he pulled over in Pueblo, Colorado, and called the Santa Cruz police. At first, the officers who knew him as Big Ed thought it was a sick joke. "I killed my mother and her friend," he told them, "and I killed those college girls." He started giving them details only the killer could know. Slowly, the horrifying truth dawned on them. Their friend was the monster they'd been hunting. Kemper confessed to all 8 murders. At his trial, he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but the jury found him sane and guilty. He requested death by torture, but since capital punishment was suspended, he received 8 life sentences. He was sent to the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. He's been denied parole repeatedly, with evaluations concluding he remains a high risk to reoffend. For Edmund Kemper, murdering his mother wasn't just another kill. It was the entire point. It was the bloody final punctuation on a life story written with abuse and hatred. The 6 young women he killed were tragic, unwilling actors in his macabre reversal. Their deaths were just stepping stones on his path to matricide, with each murder building his confidence for the one act he both craved and feared. The case of the co-ed killer is a terrifying look at how profound psychological abuse can help create a monster. It leaves us with the unsettling question at the heart of so many of these stories. Was Ed Kemper born evil, or was he made into a monster by the one person who should have protected him?